I will begin with first that what were the ideals and the goals and the spirit of the freedom movement when it was in action, and how this spirit was carried forward in the field of culture after independence. This is the main focus of our discussion today. If we try to underline some of the ideals of the freedom struggle, some of the goals, a spirit of the freedom struggle, we will note a few factors which were quite dominant. Definitely, nationalism and national integration. This was one of the most dominant factor behind the march of the freedom struggle. Likewise, another aspect was austerity and simplicity. Because India at that time was a poor country, and it couldn't afford to boast of wealth and luxury, and in no way that was going to help. So thanks to Gandhi and several other leaders, they tried to idealize austerity and simplicity in general walk of life, and this they made an ideal, and this was reflected also in the style of the freedom struggle, as it was reflected in the post-independence official measures and the goals and ideals to be achieved by public at large. The third concern of the freedom movement was the masses, the popular societies, the common man, the poor and downtrodden, the marginalized. So this was another aspect of the freedom freedom struggle, which became an ideal. And in fact, this was a revolutionary step, a revolutionary achievement, revelation, one can say a revolution, that in political movement, Mahatma Gandhi brought in the power of the common man and the collective masses. So this will be also one of the factors we will try to find out if it was reflected in the field of culture, different aspects of culture, painting, music, literature, etc. after independence. Likewise, national reconstruction was also an important aspect of the freedom struggle. National reconstruction, we can note the expression reconstruction. It means before, earlier there was development in India and perhaps there was decay, so there was need to reconstruct it, and this hinted at the bad consequences of the colonial rule that led to the poverty and impoverization of the national economy and the nation as a whole. So there was need of reconstruction during the freedom struggle. And lastly, there is the question of pluralism and cultural harmony. We know that India is a land of different religions, different castes, even different races. So it was a problem to unite the whole of the population against the British, and this was an ideal to harmonize the whole population, to bring them together, and this was possible only through communal harmony. These are some of the factors. Of course, there are other factors also, but we will try to find out and underline broadly these factors, how they were reflected in in the cultural activities after independence. Let us first talk about the government initiative. Interestingly, right from the beginning, the government of Free India, it was very much concerned about heritage, all type of heritages, but definitely the heritage in the field of culture. And they wanted to use both for national integration, national regeneration, and also for expanding and stabilizing the position of India in the field of international diplomacy and politics. So there was, right from the beginning, from the very initial, almost before independence, they took a step, the government, the prospective government, that interim government, took interest in that, and they shaped their policies accordingly. One of the first measures to use cultural heritage after independence was to make its presence on the international arena, and for that the government, the interim government, started to project the Indian heritage in different parts of the world, and for that exhibition was arranged that was called Masterpieces of Indian Art. It was displayed in London for a very long time, from November 1947 to February 1948. This was to just show the people of the world, especially the erstwhile rulers, that India was not a backward country, it was not a poor country, rather it had made great contributions in the past. So this was displayed, all the heritage examples for that, they were displayed in London for a very long time, from 1947 to 1948. Another step taken by the government of India was the establishment of the Indian Council of Cultural Relations in 1950. This establishment of cultural relations that symbolized many things. Definitely, it was created to improve the relation with other countries through the medium of culture, cultural heritage, the great achievements of India, showing it to the world and improving the relation with those countries. So this was one of the first goals of the official measure. But here we can note that this was taken up, this measure was initiated by Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. Maulana Abul Kalam Azad was a Muslim, and he was taking up this issue of cultural heritage of India. It meant that he was talking about the cultural achievement of all people of the country, not only either of the Muslim or of the Hindus. So this was in a way also a step forward towards cultural integration and common harmony. Likewise, the government from the very beginning took active interest in international cooperation for the projection of Indian culture, especially through its participation in the activities of the Commonwealth and the activities of the UNO through UNESCO. So this was another effort which projected India's cultural heritage abroad, and in that way it was projecting the national pride and national strength on the basis of India's achievements in the past in the field of culture. Likewise, another step was creation of the National Museum. We won't go into the history of the National Museum, but simply we can note that from 1955 this came into being, and this became a repository of pieces of cultural heritage that were placed in Delhi for exhibition to the people and audience at large, both the Indians and outsiders. The next step was taken by the government in the time of Mrs. Indira Gandhi when she was Prime Minister. The main feature of her regime was her own interest in the art and heritage of the tribals, and for that she initiated a lot of administrative measures, and that ultimately led to the creation of the Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts, which is now a very active center striving to retrieve and preserve and develop the culture of the tribal people of India. After that, we can also note that there were some efforts at a more abstract level, but quite meaningful, when the Indian government in the time of Nehru tried to project the aspects of nationalism in a wider perspective, nationalism presenting as a force and projecting it to the other countries under subjugation or the less developed countries of the eastern part of the world. And that was a type of forming an alliance against the colonial power. And here it was being used, culture was being as a soft power against the strong power of colonialism and capitalism. In the same way, we can also recall the efforts of the government to promote films, movies, to promote the printing resources of the country, to organize cultural festivals and make available at a cheaper rate books to the common public. This was one of the most substantial measures which led to the creation of censor board to control the quality of the films. Likewise, cultural festivals were organized both in India and abroad, and institution like NBT, National Book Trust, was created to produce quality books on Indian cultural heritage for the common masses at a cheaper rate. So this was another effort by the government to promote cultural heritage as it has been idealized in the time of the freedom struggle. And lastly, for the period of our study, I will refer to the efforts of Rajiv Gandhi, who also once again his government tried to project the image of Mera Bharat Mahan, something resounding the voice of pre-independence era. But now the perspective was slightly different. But anyway, one can see the echo of the freedom movement to project India as a great nation through different ways. And here again, the Rajiv government was trying to project India as a great Bharat Mahan by projecting its glorious achievements in the past. Now we will move to some of the other factors which we can find in different parts of cultural heritage of the country, and for that, very logically, we will take up performing arts. Performing arts means cinema and film, music, and theater and dance. This performing arts, let us first talk about cinema and film and music. We have already made reference to the idea of communal harmony and secularism. So in the time of the freedom struggle also, when some of a few films were made, they had some glorification of the past, or there was some question of communal harmony. But after independence, this became a core area for focus by the filmmakers. And in terms of secularism and communal harmony, one of the greatest example was Mughal-e-Azam. In Mughal-e-Azam, we can see the portrayal of Akbar as a great king who had very friendly feelings for all religions of the country, and in fact he tried to create a different type of thinking or different type of religion called Din Elahi. We also know about him that he used to observe several of the rituals of the Hindus. He had married a Hindu girl. So all these things, they were one of the best examples of cultural integration and communal harmony. More than that, Akbar always visualized greater India, especially contrasted against the colonial rule and the divided India before independence. Here in Mughal-e-Azam, we can visualize a greater India almost beginning from Afghanistan. The film begins with a map of India which shows India from almost beginning from Afghanistan to Assam and Burma and all that. So the greater India was projected again in these films. This was in several ways representing the basic ideals and goals of the freedom struggle. But this was not the only film of this nature. For example, we had another film, Mother India, which was very much in tune with the thinking of the freedom days of Mother India. We may recall that in 1934, one of the rising painters of the time, she had painted a picture, Mother India. And before that, we may recall of several contributions in terms of posters, paintings, and writing, idealizing the power of Shakti or Mother India or power of woman. Something touching upon a religious lines, but definitely it was not meant to be a religious one. It was the projection of Indian power in the form of women against the colonial rule. So this type of example we can see in several of the writings and paintings coming from Bengal in the late 19th century, but especially in the 20th century, early 20th century. So this was again projection, and this was echo of the days of the freedom struggle. During this period, we can also see the legacy of the freedom struggle in films like Do Aankhein Bara Haath, something reformist, regeneration, reconstruction. The image was there, if we recall, the efforts of Gandhi to reconstruct village India in 1920s and 30s. So this was also reflected in the films of post-independence era. Likewise, even during the freedom struggle, the nationalist leader had thought it very pertinent first to reform the society, make it strong so that they could fight with the British. And for that, a lot of reform movement, first religious reform movement in the 19th century, and later reform movements to reform the society, to undo the caste system, to undo untouchability. All this happened in the time of Mahatma Gandhi and several other leaders, Bhim Rao Ambedkar and all that. So this reflection was again echoed in Indian films. Also the question of not only question of discrimination, but rather the question of exploitation, whether at a wider social level or at the level of family as an internal matter. And from that angle, we can remember the films called Do Bigha Jameen, Devdas, Sahab Bibi or Gulam, etc. These were great films, but they were not the only films. There were several other films also which echoed the ideas and ideals of the days of the freedom movement. The problem here, just although we will return to this theme again, but briefly I would like to say that of late, of course, the films have been badly commercialized, and the ideals of the freedom struggle and the legacies, and in terms of idea and orientation, they are highly diluted. Rather, some of them have almost vanished. This is a matter of national concern to which we may return again in course of this talk. Now I will talk about theatre. India did have a long tradition of theatre, and we may recall, especially with reference to Bengal and Maharashtra, how theatre yatra in Bengal was used for the purpose of a struggle for throwing out the colonial rule from the country. Again, we can see also the Ganesh Puja, something like apparently like a religious ritual being used against the British for freedom. So all these traditions were there in India, and they were echoed also after independence. But here we can see that fortunately, just on the eve of independence, a group of people, artists, they had become very much conscious, and they formed what is now called IPTA, Indian People's Theatre movement. That movement became very popular especially in North India, and that took up the question not only of the colonial rule but of the whole society, exploitation in society, discrimination, the communal question, etc. And fortunately, that tradition of IFTA is in some form, it has continued all along these years, and this is continuing even now. But in general, the picture of theatre has not been very encouraging all over these years. Contrasted against the movies, films, the theatre is losing the battle. It is giving way to movies, commercialized moving. Though theatre is still existing in some part of the country, especially in Bengal, Maharashtra, and Madhya Pradesh, Punjab, and Delhi, even the Indian hills are there. But the theatre in general is losing its popularity. Even then, there have been people who had tried to promote this movement further, and among them we may recall two names, one Habib Tanvir and another Safdar Hasmi. Their effort should be remembered in terms of they are making efforts to bring problems through theatre to the common masses, to stage a drama in a common surrounding so that common man can see it and he or she can think about the problem involved in that play. So these two personalities, apart from several others, they have been important persons in the field of theatre, and they have popularized theatre. One of the latest trend, which is not against the tradition of the freedom movement, rather in some way it is very much in tune with the freedom struggle's basic goals and ideals, and that is the rise of Nukkad Natak. We don't remember it occurring at that time, but the Nukkad Natak, which has become popular in the past years, reminds one about the Gandhi's mass movement against the colonial rule and his concern about the common people, and about his concern about moral and ethics and their value in the society. And here, in a apparently very small experiment, we can find all these things occurring together, and a few artists working at the grassroots level and discussing and debating and projecting the basic burning questions of the society today. For example, corruption, nepotism, the question of communal harmony, and disintegration of society on account of economic disparity, etc. All these things are being played in these Nukkad Nataks, and this is one of the remarkable achievement in terms of the legacy of the freedom struggle. But as a whole, the theatre, the culture of theatre is dying out, and it is definitely a matter of quite concern, because theatre could be performed anywhere, even in a village. It was earlier available almost free of cost. It could be a stage even at an improvised place, but now it is giving way to films, which is a commercial enterprise which requires a lot of money, but it has also a power of propaganda, a power of populist propaganda in terms of commercial gains, etc. So this is a clear threat for theatre, which needs to be addressed by all concerned. During this period, we have noted another trend in the field of culture in India, and that has been a concern for ethnic arts. This is very interesting that while one strata of society has been going towards movies, towards the problems of the elites, but even from that group of people, there are some who are taking interest, and they have taken interest in the heritage of the local group, ethnic heritage in different areas of the country. This has been projected through different type of mahotsavas and exhibitions being organized, especially by the government all over the country and abroad. Also, this type of ethnic art and heritage has been displayed at the time of Independence Day parades in Delhi. But the most profound step taken in this regard is creation of the Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts. This center, located in Delhi, this addresses the problem and concern for the ethnic heritage, heritage of the common people of different segments of society, but most important of all, of the tribal people. Specimens, men are being collected at different centers, but more than that, they are being classified, they are taken into records, into black and white, so we can have an idea of the dimensions of ethnic art lying hidden all over the country. Before we move further, we can also discuss for a while about the patterns of dance in the country. We know that in India there has been long tradition of Shastriya dance. Then the dances of a slightly later period, Bharatnatyam, Kathakali, Mohiniyattam, Kuchipudi dance, etc. Then about Kathak dance and Hindustani music and Carnatic classical music, etc. So this tradition of dance and music has been there, and it was though taken not much notice during the freedom movement in terms of a struggle against the British Raj, but definitely it was one of the part of the glory which the nationalist leaders boasted against the colonial perception projected that India was a country without any tradition. So this tradition has developed after freedom also. This has been developing, but here again some type of crisis is palpable. For example, classical dance is now a type of commercial dance. All the dance forms, with a few exceptions, they are being commercialized. It means it will be promoted only with the help of money and with the whole help of huge resources, huge enough for individual effort to manipulate it. So this is again the question of commercialization of art in this country, and which is against the spirit of the freedom struggle. So this art form, the dance and the music, it has developed. There is Ravi Shankar and several other dancers are there, Solan Mansingh and others. But we can see that the common people is hardly interested in that. First, these great dancers, they are not available for viewing without any cost. One has to make huge amount of payment to enter these type of programs. Another, these type of dances are not being performed at a smaller village level, except in some part of South India and in some part of the tribal zones. Otherwise, the common entertainment today is not dance, neither theatre, it is rather a movie, film, which is thanks to the market economy and thanks to science and technology, which is available to common man at a very cheap cost through television and cinema. So this is a peculiar situation in which the modern cinema and modern science and technology represented in TV and also radio and now also mobile phones. It is eroding into the domain of traditional heritages of this country, because they are making some items of commercial utilization, means dance for money, these type of, or a film which is a commercial effort, commercial enterprise, these forms of medium, they are making it available to common people at a much affordable price. This is a serious concern which needs to be addressed both by the common people, the intellectuals, and the government as well. So this much about dance and music. Here also I would try to note that the problem is restricted not only towards whether to see or not to see. The problem is the cinema being perhaps the most powerful media influencing the psyche of the people at large throughout the country. It is rather deflating the whole traditional concern and tradition of the country in terms of cultural heritage. It means it is eroding the traditional values in art, the traditional admiration for art, and rather it is trying to implant a type of art which is not a product of this, neither of this land, not of this culture. Mostly it is being inspired and fueled by the West. It is coming from the West. Of course, it is getting root into Indian soils also, and there is a type of fusion of art both in music and in dance, and I did not give much explanation or illustration for that. Everyone, every viewer sees it every day on the TV. You can see a dance which is in no way tuning with our psyche. You hear a music, a band music on the stage coming through TV channels that we would really do not enjoy it. But since it is a trend, if you don't enjoy, you'll be rejected in society and consider that you are outdated. So this is a problem, and since it is being highlighted through a very powerful media, it is going on, and once it is repeated once again and again and 1,000 times, it has its roots in the Indian psyche. But mind it, it is going to be not the original thing of India, and so we will be enjoying partly, very partly, we can say, an item which is not of our taste. So this is problem. But what is the greatest problem of this media, TV and the film, is that it has not only commercialized art, rather it has criminalized it also. Because in every movie, in every channel program, we see a lot of violence, and there is censor board. But I wonder at times what the censor board is, how it is doing its duty, and whether it is looking all these things at all those things which do not require any type of enquiry to judge whether it is good for the psyche of the Indian culture or not. One can immediately note what is wrong there. But all these things are getting the certificate of censor, and they are coming to the viewer. We are saying some of the programs, in fact, most of the programs we cannot see with our family, in our traditional family. Traditional not in any derogatory sense, even in a progressive sense, in a sense of a stability, as a stabilized tradition. I am talking about that, which is based on some amount of reason also. It is not only emotional or only based on any religion. But we can't see those programs. But one is forced, because you don't know, you are seeing some program, something good is going on, and all of a sudden something comes before your eyes, and you can't leave the room immediately after that. So this is a peculiar situation that totally contradicts with the legacy of the freedom movement. And in this context, we can also recall Mahatma Gandhi and even Rabindranath Tagore. Because Gandhi definitely, he had always set a standard for ethics and morality for every walk of life, be it politics or religion or commerce or general society. He had always idealized that there should be a ethical standard of everything. Some people consider him conservative. So I'm also talking about Rabindranath Tagore, who in modern sense, who was much more liberated, much more progressive. Even he wouldn't have sanctioned the type of programs are coming on TV and through cinema these days. Sometimes the critics ask that why this type of criminalization is taking place, and the answer is provided by the producer and the beneficiaries, economic beneficiaries of this production. They say first that what is harm about that? This is a progressive situation and we should accept this. But they fail to note that this is a progressive item from the Western society and not from a society which has been rooted in tradition for centuries. So we can't, the experience has shown that we can't transplant a particular thing in a society which is not prepared for that. The first thing I have heard, I won't name the persons concerned who, the great legendary personalities of the Indian movie, with one, the person who, the interviewer asked him that some of your films also, they are very in bad taste, both in terms of violence and other thing. And that great legendary hero, he said, but you have always the key in your hand, you can switch off your TV. I think this is not a rational answer. It means they should be allowed to do whatever they do, and we are expected to through chooses and every day to censor it and censor ourselves, not the movies. In another case, another equally legendary hero, I heard him saying, the interviewer asked him that some of your actings or the plays or the roles you act, they are very violent, or they are rather not to the Indian taste. Why do you do it? And he said that this is business, this is money for me. Whatever the producer, if he gives me money, I will do whatever he likes. So these were the top legendary heroes of this country who are living, and I was rather shocked at their answer. It shows the complete irresponsibility towards their social and ethical and cultural obligation towards the nation, which was enshrined by the freedom movement. So this is the story before before us, and of course the film has been a great media. So whether you like or not, it is present there, not on account of our choice only, rather as a economic force, as a business. It is present there, and there are ways and means to push them forward, and whether we like or not, they are present there. So in terms of heritage of the freedom movement, the cinema and the visual means of culture, they are the most powerful, and they can do wonders, great things they can do for the nation, and as they have been doing, they can do the worst thing also. So in the post-independence in India, this has been problem. If we have a look in the past, after independence, initially you will find that the films and movies, they focused on regeneration of the society. Initially on the Desh Prem, patriotism, then the regeneration of the society, then they talked about discrimination of different type of society, then they talked about communal harmony, and they fought against communal violence, etc. These were the subject matter. Gradually, they moved to more subtle things concerning social discrimination and inequality, and later, with the coming of the Naxalite movement, they also touched upon political crucial political problems. But in recent years, say about 10 or 20 or 30 years past, we can say a lot of other things which are totally unconcerned about the development of the society as visualized by the freedom struggle. Now the themes are totally abstraction. They are outlandish. They are imported from other countries. Some of the program, reality shows, etc., are they really teaching the nation in any form? They are not teaching, but there are their supporters, and they have also their logic. Even whatsoever irrational that logic may be, but somehow they are prevailing in the society. So this is a very crucial question. And in that, one good thing happened due to TV and radio, etc., that the cultural homogenization has taken place. And in that, we are living in a plural environment. That is a byproduct, to some extent good one also. That has been the contribution of radio and television. We have an retrospective look at all these things. Let us summarize and sum up that before the freedom struggle, there were some values which came out of the technique and goals of the freedom struggle. As I have said in the beginning, those were nationalism, national integration, austerity and simplicity, concern for the masses, national reconstruction, pluralism, and cultural harmony. They were reflected in different type of arts form at that time. In painting, those were reflected by Rabindranath Tagore, by Abanindranath Thakur, by Nandlal Bose, and later on Amrita Shergill. In fact, Amrita Shergill at that time, she was considered in some way outrageous. But if we closely look at her, she was very much close to the ideals of Gandhi. She was talking about the common man. She was talking about the downtrodden and the poor. She was talking about the village India. She was talking about the poverty of the masses, their miseries, and somehow she was empathizing with that. She has been criticized. Some people say that she enjoyed it. No, there is no question of enjoying. There is a stage in the life of people, great people like Buddha and others, when they empathize with a sense of karuna, in which they are concerned about your misery, but they won't weep because they have a larger canvas. They are thinking about not only your misery, rather the misery of the whole of the mankind, and they are somehow consciously, unconsciously thinking to find some ways out. So that was, even in the time of freedom struggle, there were examples like Amrita Shergill, whose work is now very much appreciated, though at that time she was considered outrageous, something mad exercise, something like that. But now we can see that there was some meaning and some ethos of the freedom struggle even at that time. But unfortunately, this tradition has not continued in a very strong manner. After post-independence era, of course, the paintings of M.F. Hussain, they have brought in a type of secularization in the sphere of painting. Also, not only secularization, rather a homogenization of different culture. A Muslim painter painting the Indian Shakti, Kali or Saraswati or something like that. All these things have happened. There is some aspect about which there has been controversy. I'm not talking about that, but what I'm trying to highlight here, that after independence we have achieved some element of secularism at a wider level through culture also. There have been legislation, government legislation, but there has been also a reflection of the arts and performing arts, etc. And in that, even the Indian movies, they have made their contribution about homogenizing the society. I won't say that they are doing all these things in terms of eliminating communalization and power politics and politics of power. All these things they are not exactly doing, but in some cases, just as a byproduct, what is coming is it's good for homogenization of society and making a society much more comfortable. And in fact, to this, the globalization has also with very good and very bad results. The globalization has been another factor which needs to be consideration. Even it started in the time of freedom struggle, because freedom struggle at one stage it sought support from all over the world. And if we can recall the Ghadar party, which was formed in USA in 1914, and later on the Indians living in America and living in several other parts of the world, including in Europe and Japan and Singapore and other places, they contributed a lot towards the freedom of the country against the colonial rule. So that globalization started in that way at that time. Later on, even in formal diplomacy, America entered the Indian scene during the Second World War, and it offered support to Indian people, and of course it did have commercial interest also, and the collaboration which were forged at that time between the Indian commercial houses, industrialists, and the foreign companies from USA and other parts of the world, they also paved the way for globalization. Here globalization means, we mean coming of things from other countries, and especially in terms of culture here. We can't say that much came in terms of culture, but definitely the dresses, the way of thinking, the schooling, English language above all, it has been coming, and it has been a part of Indian life, Indian languages, and this language had its own meaning. If we analyze the words of an alien language and words of India, we can find how these simple words are making revolutionary changes. Take, for example, a simple word aunt or auntie or uncle. In India, for this auntie or aunt or uncle, this has a meaning which is a blanket meaning. Means chacha, phupa, monsa, and all of other things which are used in India. But the only one word signifies for all of them. In Indian culture, we have different words for different relations. And in our tradition, we know that every word and every relation has its flavor. Now, it is very difficult with hearing a word like uncle, it is very difficult to distinguish the exact relation. What is the exact relation of that with that person? More than that, that relation, that word uncle or auntie has become a common word which can be used for any unknown person, distant person. So the whole thing has been leveled. It means the cultural niceties have been leveled by a simple foreign words. So these are the cultural crisis which is now called cultural imperialism, and India is in the throes of cultural imperialism, globalization, neo-imperialism, and modern Western-based machine and culture. Thank you very much.